You'd think grief would bring a family closer. From me, it cracked everything wide open. The church was still heavy with flowers, lilies so strong they almost made me dizzy. I was sitting in the front pew, clutching tissues in one hand and my mother's rosary in the other. My best friend, Claire, was beside me, squeezing my shoulder like she always did when I broke down. We had been friends for 30 years. She was at every birthday, every barbecue, every sleepless night when I needed to vent. She was more than a friend, she was family. When the service ended and people began to trickle toward the reception hall, I caught whispers. My cousin leaned in close, her eyes sharp. "So, I hear your mom left Claire the lake house." I laughed, thinking it was grief talking. But then another relative muttered, "Figures, she always liked Claire better." My chest went tight. What were they talking about? The lake house was supposed to be mine. Mom told me 100 times she wanted me to keep it for the grandkids. I found Claire near the coffee urn. She smiled at me like nothing was wrong. I asked, straight out, "Why is my family saying Mom left you the house?" Her smile froze. She brushed it off. "Oh, don't listen to gossip. People always twist things at times like this." But her eyes flickered away, and my stomach dropped. An hour later, we were all gathered in the lawyer's office, still in our black clothes, stuffed into stiff chairs. The lawyer held a thick envelope. My heart was pounding in my ears. He slid the papers out, cleared his throat, and began to read. My mother's voice echoed in my head with every word, but then the words bent sideways. The property, the savings, even her jewelry, all of it was left not to me, her only daughter, but to Claire. The room went silent. My uncle gasped. My cousin smirked. My face burned so hot I couldn't swallow. I looked at Claire. She sat perfectly still, face calm, like this was exactly what she expected. In that moment, the grief I felt for my mother twisted into something sharper: anger, betrayal, shock. I had lost my mother, and now, in front of everyone I loved, I had apparently lost her legacy, too. But I knew one thing: this wasn't right. This wasn't my mother's voice on those pages, and I was going to prove it. The lawyer kept reading, but I couldn't hear a word. My ears were ringing, my chest felt hollow. My mother, who spent her life reminding me to pay the bills on time, who saved every clipping coupon, who held my hand through every bad decision, she would never have left everything to Claire. My cousins shifted in their chairs, exchanging glances I couldn't mistake. Pity. Suspicion. One even muttered, "Guess she really did like Claire better." My face burned. I wanted to scream. Instead, I sat frozen, staring at those papers like they were written in another language. When it was over, Claire leaned toward me, voice low, silky. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know she'd done this, but you know I'll take care of the house. I'll make sure your kids can still visit the lake." That was the knife twist. She spoke like she was doing me a favor, like she hadn't just stolen everything my mother ever worked for. My hands trembled so badly I shoved them under the table so no one could see. When we left the office, I walked behind Claire and my cousins. They were laughing, actually laughing about how shocking it all was. My vision blurred with tears, but beneath the grief, there was a spark. I knew my mother's handwriting. I knew the careful loops of her J, the way she dotted her I with a tiny circle. The signature on that paper? It was close, but not hers. Not even close. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, the will copy laid flat under the lamp. I pulled out old birthday cards, old recipes written in her hand, lined them up side by side. The more I looked, the more I became certain whoever wrote that signature, it wasn't my mother. And if I was right, then this wasn't just betrayal. It was fraud. The next morning, I made an appointment with the notary listed on the document. My heart pounded the whole drive, palms slick against the steering wheel. If I was wrong, I'd lose my family's respect forever. But if I was right, I was about to step into a fight I couldn't walk away from. When I finally slid the paper across his desk, the notary stared at it for a long moment, lips pressed tight. He leaned in, then leaned back, shaking his head slowly. His voice dropped to a whisper. "This will is fake." I drove to Claire's house with my hands gripping the wheel so tight they ached. The whole way over, I practiced what I'd say, how I'd say it. But when she opened the door, smiling like nothing had happened, the words tore out of me raw. "How could you?" My voice cracked. "How could you forge my mother's will?" Her smile flickered, but only for a second. Then she laughed, soft and dismissive. "What are you talking about? You're grieving. You're not thinking straight." I pulled the copy from my bag and slammed it against her kitchen counter. "The notary said it's fake. Mom's signature doesn't match. You stole from me, Claire. You stole everything she wanted me to have." She didn't flinch. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed, eyes hard. "Maybe your mom just trusted me more. Maybe she thought you couldn't handle the responsibility. Ever think of that?" The words hit like a punch. My breath caught in my throat. "She was my mother, my only family, and you—" "Family?" Claire cut me off, her voice sharp now. "Where were they when she was sick? Who was driving her to the doctor? Who was cleaning her house? Me, not you. She saw who really cared." My vision blurred. Rage and heartbreak tangled together. "You're lying. She told me herself she wanted the lake house for my kids." Claire's jaw tightened, but her eyes stayed cold. "People say things. They change their minds. The papers don't lie." I wanted to scream. Instead, I stumbled out her door, shaking so hard I thought my knees would give out. The betrayal was worse than the loss. My best friend had turned into my enemy, and she was smug enough to act like I was the crazy one. That night, I called my cousin to explain, to beg someone to believe me, but she cut me off before I finished. "Honestly, Claire told us you'd make a scene like this. She said you'd accuse her. Maybe you should just accept the truth." It was like being stabbed twice, once by Claire and once by my own family. I was alone, completely alone. But the universe has a cruel way of shifting, because the very next morning, my phone rang. A man's voice I didn't recognize said, "You don't know me, but I saw something you need to know about that will." The voice on the other end was rough, like gravel. "Name's David. I work at the copy shop on Main Street. Your friend, Claire, she came in a few weeks before your mother passed, spent hours here, scanning papers, running copies. I didn't think much of it until I saw your family in the news about the will. Then I remembered something. She had a signature sheet with her. Old letters? I swear, I watched her trace them." My breath caught. "You're saying she forged my mother's will in your shop?" "I can't swear it in court yet, but I kept the receipt. Date, time, machine number. And the security camera picked her up. If you're serious about fighting this, I'll give it to you." For a moment, I couldn't move, couldn't speak. All those nights staring at the will, all those arguments with my family, the gaslighting, the betrayal, it all clicked. This wasn't just suspicion. This was proof. I met him that afternoon, my hands trembling as he slid a crumpled receipt across the diner table. The timestamp matched the date the will was supposedly signed. He pulled out a thumb drive next. "Security footage," he said. "Shows her feeding papers through the scanner. You can see the envelope with your mom's name on it." I pressed it to my chest like it was gold. Finally, I wasn't crazy, I wasn't alone. But the relief didn't last. Because if I wanted justice, This was only the beginning. Claire had money, family support, and now everyone thought I was just bitter. To take her down, I'd need to stand in front of a judge and prove the truth, no matter how ugly it got. And just when I thought the evidence would speak for itself, Claire's lawyer walked in the court with a bombshell that almost blew my case apart. The judge's gavel echoed like thunder. He cleared his throat, eyes scanning both tables. The silence was sharp. I could hear my own pulse. He said slowly, "This court finds the will presented by the defense to be invalid. Evidence of forgery is compelling. The notary's testimony, the copy shot receipt, and the inconsistencies in handwriting all point to fraud. Furthermore, the court accepts the plaintiff's evidence of the decedent's true intent." My knees nearly buckled. The words washed over me like rain after a drought. Claire's lawyer shot to his feet, sputtering, "Your Honor, this is outrageous. You can't simply—" The judge cut him off with a gavel bang. "Sit out, counselor. This matter is settled. Assets will revert to the rightful heir." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. My cousins stared at me, wide-eyed, some ashamed, some whispering to each other. Claire sat frozen, her face drained of color, her lips pressed into a thin, furious line. For a moment she looked at me, not with remorse, not with apology, but with pure hatred. The kind of look that said, "You may have won, but you'll never forget me." Then she grabbed her purse and stormed out, heels cracking against the marble floor. The judge dismissed us, and I sat there, shaking, clutching my mother's letter. My lawyer leaned over and whispered, "You did it. You honored her." Walking out of that courthouse felt surreal. Strangers congratulated me, family members muttered half apologies, but none of it mattered. All that mattered was I hadn't let my mother's legacy be stolen. That night, I drove to the lake house. The sun was setting, painting the water gold, just the way Mom loved it. I sat on the porch steps, her rosary wrapped around my fingers, and I finally let myself cry, not from grief, not from anger, but from relief. I had been betrayed by my best friend. I had been abandoned by my family, but in the end, I stood my ground, and I won. And as the waves lapped gently against the shore, I whispered to the night, "We did it, Mom. We kept it in the family."